Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's lecture. So today we are going to cover SA 600 series and the practical side of SA 600 series, to be precise. Now, as I will reiterate again, today we will be covering the practical side, not in the detailed analysis way, not the detailed theory way. Okay, we will solve questions as much as we can. Okay, and accordingly, I will be expecting answers from your side. I will be expecting participation from your side, and I will be expecting some doubts and queries from your side. For that, you should have seen the previous lectures. Okay, read the study material, and you should have gone through whatever the material and the notes you have for this particular standards. So I'll request to participate as much as can, because the more you will participate, the more you will understand the concept, the more you will get how to answer a question in the exam. It will be very important if you will participate. Trust me, it will be very important, because today if I give a wrong answer, but you will come to know, okay, what is the correct thought process? Okay, if this answer is not correct, then what could be the correct answer? And you will remember for that, and you will remember even in the exam, okay, I developed that thought process at that particular point in time. I tried to give that answer, but that was wrong. Then I should think in this way. So this is very important if you participate. Okay. So let's start the series. So I will be covering SA 600 series. Now, SA 600 series, okay, are having three major essays. 600, okay, using the work of another auditor. 610, using the work of internal audit, and 620, okay, which is my using the work of auditor's expert. In previous lectures, we have seen some questions on using the work of auditor's expert. I together with management experts took some questions on that, and I will see again today also on that. Okay. Now, when I talk about SA 600 series, or specifically SA 600 using the work of another auditor, I'll give you a brief and then we'll go back on to the questions. Okay. So SA 600 talks about when we can use the work of another auditor, and this is not the case of joint audit, because joint audits are covered by SA 299. This is something, work performed by the component auditor, wherein the principal auditor is relying on that. Okay, so work performed by the component auditor and principal auditor is relying on that. So this essay guides the principal auditor that how he can use the work performed by the other auditor and how it will affect the nature, timing, and extent of the overall audit. So there are some guidelines given that before principal auditor accept himself as a principal auditor, he is required to understand whether he is in the position of accepting as a principal auditor by considering the materiality, risk of material misstatement, performance of the additional procedures that are required to be done from the whole holistic point of view. Okay, or from the parent entity point of view. Now, principal auditor has some rights with respect to with respect to the evidence or the information that he would be requiring. Okay, we will see that in a while that what could be those things. But principal auditor can guide the component auditor with respect to how they want the component auditor to perform the work. Okay. Now on to that, let's start the question first. Super Products Limited, SPL, a listed entity, invested 500 crores on 1/4/2022 in Tricycle Technologies Limited and acquired 35% equity through superior voting rights, equity shares, okay, and right to appoint majority of the board of directors, including nominee directors. Under the investment agreement, TTL agreed to pay 30.5 crore every year plus 65% of the dividend declared each year. TTL agreed that SPL would take decisions about manufacturing, marketing, and selling of new and existing products, either already developed or developed through the patents and technology provided by SPL. SPL appointed Sudha and Associates as their statutory auditor for financial year 22-23. TTL appointed Shubham and Company as their statutory auditors. Sudha and Associates issued guidance to Shubham and Company on how they will use the work that will be performed by them. However, TTL management was of the view that they are not required to share anything with Sudha and Associates. Also, TTL is a separate standalone entity where the majority of the holding is with old individual shareholders. Hence, Shubham and Company is not required to disclose any information to Sudha and Associates. Now, let us see the first question here. As a parent auditor, Sudha and Associates decided to visit TTL to examine certain key transactions pertaining to the deal between SPL and TTL. However, TTL's management denied and explained to Sudha and Associates that they are not the principal auditors. Kindly guide with respect to Sudha and Associates being the principal auditor by selecting the appropriate option from below. Now, before we go to the option, I want you to answer whether Sudha and Associates are principal auditor. Whether Sudha and Associates are principal auditor. I want answer with reason. Come on, guys. Okay, good, Viraj. Come on, I'm waiting for your answers. Good, Janvi. See, majority of the shareholding is still with the old shareholders. New company acquired only 35% equity. This is very important to understand the concept of principal auditor or parent auditor. Okay. Is Sudha and Associates a principal or are principal auditors or not? Good, Namrata. Very good. Viraj, can you provide the reason for your answer? And Namrata, this is one of the conditions that you are provided. There are two more conditions to that. Come on, guys. We need to understand in order to understand the concept of principal auditor, first of all, we need to understand how it is, like, how the relationship can be established. That's very important from that point of view. Okay, Before you answer to that, tell me whether Super Products Limited is a holding company or not. Whether Super Products Limited is a holding company or not, and your answer should be based on the relevant provision, whatever it is. Whether Super Products is a holding company or not. Okay, Namrata. And based on what? Or to reframe, is SPL a parent company? Is SPL a parent company to TPL? Okay. I zoomed in a bit that you guys can see clearly. Do let me know, Namrata, if it is visible now. Jocelyn, you can visit the BOF portal to see the schedule. There is a whole schedule available, which lectures happened in the past and which are, next lectures planned going forward. Okay. Now, okay, tell me, according, like, if you say, let's say, for example, if I say this is a parent company and holding company, then on basis of what? Where is it's the provision line? Which provision you are referring to? If I say, okay, for assume if I say this is a parent company, then on base of which provision, where should I draw the reference? But I understood the Namrata, I understood the facts, but these facts should be referred somewhere. Like let's say for example, I'm referring from Companies Act, I'm referring from Ind AS, from where you guys are referring. Just I need to refer some provision. Okay, this is a provision based on which the definition is there, and this falls under this definition or under this condition, and hence it is a parent or a holding company. The facts which you are providing are good, are valid, but there should be some provision to which I should link it. Jocelyn, I'll suggest go on to the BOS portal. Okay, over there is a schedule for the batch, for the current batch, and from the schedule you can see which lectures you have missed out. But still the recording is available. You can go and check the recordings of those lectures which you have not attended. Even you can see which are the lectures which are planned for upcoming days. Okay. So, see, now, if I have to establish that a particular entity is a parent entity, I need to establish the conditions of control. Okay. I need to establish the conditions of control. And let's say, for example, this question is an exam. I just cannot write a reason that, this is based on the fact that they have a right to appoint majority of the shareholders. So in that case, I need to first see whether the control is present as per Ind AS 110, that is Consolidated Financial Statement CFS, where they have defined the control. For control, there are three things: power over investee, then exposure or right to variable returns, third, the condition is ability to use its power over the investee to affect the investor's return. So, to affect the investor's return. Now, I need to establish these three conditions, not only the power, not only right to variable return, but the third one also, the ability to use its power, basically. If all these three conditions are satisfied, then only I will be able to say that, okay, this entity controls and this can become a parent entity by the virtue of Ind AS 110. Now, to say that and to prove that, first, whether there is a power, yes, there is a power because they have a right to appoint majority of the board of directors. Right to variable return. So right to variable return is 30.5 every year plus the 65% of the dividend declared. Okay. Third, ability to use the power. So SPL would take all decisions about manufacturing, marketing, and selling of new and existing products. So that demonstrates the ability to use the power. So all the three conditions are satisfied, and hence, yes, I can say that this entity, okay, the investor here, that's a SPL limited, regardless the nature of involvement, okay, with the investee, is a parent entity by the virtue of control. And if that is a parent entity, then the auditor is then the management is required to prepare consolidated financial statements. If management is required to prepare consolidated financial statement, then the role of Sudha and Associate increases because they need to get the comfort over the work performed by the component auditor of the of the component financials. So the question was, as a parent entity, Sudha and Associate decided to visit TTL to examine certain key transactions pertaining to deal between this. However, management denied and explained to Sudha and Associate that they are not the principal auditors. So we need to select one option. As a old invest, we know now the answer. So I'll see the options. As old individual shareholders are still majority shareholders, Sudha and Associate cannot term themselves as the principal auditors. To classify themselves, Sudha and Associate as principal auditors, the auditor has to prove control over the component auditor, and then only the principal auditor relationship can be established. As SPL is a holding company by virtue of the control, and hence Sudha and Associate can be considered themselves as a principal auditor. Shubham and Company can consider themselves as a principal auditor, as they are the statutory auditor of the entity where the investment has been made and public interest entity criteria is applicable. So I have just told you the answer. You need to select one appropriate option from here. Select one appropriate option. Come on, guys. Absolutely correct, Namrata. Correct, Viraj. So the correct answer is SPL is a holding company by virtue of control, and hence so that an associate can consider themselves as a principal auditor. Okay. Now that is the correct answer. C. Okay. And not A, because they, although they are majority they have a majority holding, but they don't have a power and everything. That's not the correct. This is also not correct. And Shubham company cannot consider as of now because they are not the statutory auditor of the parent company. Now let's go to the question number 2. Now, question number 2 talks about kindly explain to Sudha and associate the matter to consider before whether their own participation is sufficient to act as the principal auditor or not. If they want to consider themselves as the principal auditors, what are the matters they should consider? Okay, before considering or deciding whether their participation is sufficient as a principal auditor or not. I just cannot, tomorrow declare myself, okay, I'm a principal auditor. Now I will become principal auditor. But there are certain things, as I told you in the start of the lecture, I need to consider few things before I term myself as a principal auditor. I need to consider few things before I need to decide whether my participation is sufficient to be able to act as a principal auditor. And what are those matters that are required to be considered? Sanuja, actually, I'm not able to get your question or anything because it's not appearing full. Can you rewrite the full again? Come on, guys. So, what are the areas that Sudha and associates should consider before they can finalize, okay, their participation is sufficient to be able to act as a principal auditor? Now, if I have to ask you, okay, are you comfortable being a principal auditor? What things you will consider before you give me an answer of yes or no? That are the matters that are required to be considered here. Come on, guys. Absolutely correct, Namrata. Again, Viraj, your answer is not coming full. Can you rewrite your answer? Absolutely correct, Janvi. Correct, Namrata. Very good, guys. Come on, I'm awaiting more answers. I'm waiting for more answers. So I have received the answer from Janvi and Namrata. I'm still waiting for other answers. No, Viraj. There are certain matters they need to consider before they can consider their participation is sufficient to act as a principal auditor. Yes, so the end company can, consider themselves as a principal auditor, but there are few things they need to assess as per the requirements of SA 600. So in that case, they need to think of something before they can say, yes, okay, we are principal auditors. The matters which are important, the matters which, let's say, for example, tomorrow I come to you and ask you, okay, are you comfortable to act as a principal auditor? Okay. And when I say principal auditor, it's not the auditor of a particular company. It gives or it, comes with some additional responsibilities. If I say you are a principal auditor, means there is an additional responsibility towards the component auditor, towards the whole, you can say consolidated financial statements. Correct, Namrata? So before accepting those additional responsibilities, you need to consider whether you can discharge those additional responsibilities. And for that, what are the things you will consider? What are the things you will, think of, okay, I should decide these things first, and then I can, take a decision whether I can accept those responsibilities or not. Absolutely correct, Namrata. So let's see the answers. So there are four major, I can divide the things which are required to be considered into four categories. Okay. So the auditor should consider whether the auditor's own participation is sufficient to be able to act as a principal auditor. For this purpose, the auditor would consider the materiality of the portion of the financial information which the principal auditor audits. Now, materiality of the portion of the financial information means how much of the information will be I will be auditing, how much of the information will the component auditors will be auditing. Okay. Number two, the principal auditor's degree of the knowledge regarding the business of the components. How much knowledge I have of the components business. I have the knowledge of the principal so parent entity because I'm the auditor of parent entity. But again, how much knowledge I have of the components business. That's the more important part. Risk of material misstatement in the financial information of the component audited by other auditors. How much and where the risk of material misstatement lies. 4. The performance of additional procedures as set out in this essay regarding the component audited by other auditors, resulting in the principal auditor having a significant participation in such audit. So, whether the component auditors will be able to perform other procedures or procedures that are, set by or required by this essay. Okay. So that will something, will decide whether his participation is sufficient or not. Clear? Any doubt? Okay. Good, Viraj. Okay. If no doubt, then let's proceed forward. Okay. Now, SPL specifically requested Sudan Associate to verify their credentials. Okay. Professional competency and objectivity of Superman company before using any of their work. So SPL requested Sudha and Associate to verify the credential, professional competency, and objectivity of Sudha and Company before using any of their work. Sudha and Associate, however, are not sure whether to perform such procedures or not. Kindly guide Sudha and Associate with respect to considering the professional competency of other auditors. So, what they should do if they want to consider the professional competency, credential, and objectivity of other auditors. Okay, so there is one doubt with respect to the fourth point, this point. Okay, so the doubt was that the performance of additional procedure as set out in this essay, regarding the component audited by other auditors, resulting in the principal auditor having a significant participation in such audit, means that, for example, let's say there are certain procedures that the principal auditor would require the component auditor to perform. Now, if component auditor performs that procedure, can I say that, the participation that is required is achieved by the principal auditor if the component auditor performs that particular procedures? If that is the case, then the principal auditor can, demonstrate his participation in the audit, and that will be then fine to consider themselves as a principal auditor. Okay, so it's about the performance of the procedures by the component auditor, and whatever output will be there, whether based on that output, the principal auditor can satisfy their participation as a significant participation in the audit. Yes, then it is fine. So that was the point 4. Clear, Namita? Okay. Good, Janvi. Good. Come on, guys. So now in this question number 3, Sudha and Associates, SPL requested Sudha and Associate to verify credentials, professional competency, and objectivity of Shubham and Company. Now, just for the sake of clarification, both are member firms, like registered with institute. Okay, because then only they can be auditor. So will not go in another direction, but we will stick to that. So kindly guide Sudha and Associate with respect to considering the professional competency of other auditors. What they should do with respect to the other auditors' professional competency. Are they required to consider all these things for the component auditor? If yes, then how? Correct, Namrata? Come on, guys. Professional competency means, are you competent enough to perform the engagement that has been given to you? So kind of, whether you have the sufficient and appropriate skill, knowledge, resource, manpower. Okay. So are you competent enough to perform the engagement? So that's something the competency comes. Basically, competency relates to the nature and the level of expertise or level of knowledge that person is having with respect to the subject matter. Come on, guys. Resources of the firm, manpower can be somewhere linked to the capabilities, if that is clear. But see, there is no defined guidelines for what is, what is the definition of competency and capability. It is a general term that we need to, understand in the parlance of the whole sentence of the question. So don't go on the specifics of the competencies and capabilities. Just interpret the term with, in context of the whole question. So come on, guys. Are they required to consider the credentials, professional competency, and objectivity of Shubham company? Are they required to verify rather their credentials? I only received answer from two, Janvi and Namrata. I'm still awaiting answers from others. Come on, guys. The more you will participate, the more you will learn about the topic. It's pretty easy. I'll suggest. It's not like that. Whether we are required to consider. If yes, then why? If no, then why? Pretty easy. Okay, I'll give you the options. Let's see the options, and then you can give me the answer. So here are our options. A. When planning to use the work of another auditor, the principal auditor should consider the professional competency of other auditor in the context of a specific engagement if the other auditor is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. When planning to use the work of another auditor, the principal auditor should consider the professional competency of the other auditor in context of a specific engagement if the other auditor is not a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. The principal auditor's engagement partners shall determine the component auditor has the appropriate competency, capability, including sufficient time to perform the assigned audit procedures at the component. Determine whether the component auditor has the appropriate competency and capability is a matter of professional judgment and is influenced by the parent entity's management or parent's management. So what do you think is the correct option? What do you think is, which one is the correct option? Okay, good, Viraj. Good, Purvi Ben. Good, Janvi. Which one do you think is the correct option? Good, Namrata. I'll explain why the other options are correct. Uh, I'm I'm not able to get your name, Mr. G. Like it's coming half. Okay. Mr. G, I suggest to rewrite your name because it's not coming fully. But your answer, yes, good, good. Principal auditors engagement partner means, let's say for example, engagement partner of Sudan Associates. So Sudan Associates are principal auditor, and their engagement partner, who is looking after the engagement, is principal auditor's engagement partner. Okay, so I have received a lot of answers. Okay, now let's see which answer is correct. So let's talk about understanding the requirement. So here the SPL required Sudan company to verify credentials, professional competency, and objectivity of Shubham and company. See, Shubham and company, or in case component auditor, if they are a member of institute, then there is no requirement to verify professional competency, because in that case what will happen is that you are verifying competency of a fellow member, okay, and that is equivalent to raising a question on the the competencies and capabilities that you have received being in a charter account. Hence, that is not an appropriate way, and that's not an appropriate in a whole context. That's why if the auditor is not a member of chartered accountants, ICAI, then we are if he is not a member, then only we are required to verify. Otherwise, we are not required to verify professional competency, credentials, and objectivity. Reason because if he is being appointed as a statutory auditor means he is competent enough. Okay. If he is a chartered accountant in practice, he is competent enough. So in that case, if a person is, a auditor of a component, and if he is a member of institute, then no need to verify the competency, no need to do the exercise, because it's presumed that he is competent. That's why he is a, as of now, member. That's enough. Like he's a member and statutory auditor. That he has already proved that he is competent enough. That's why he's a member today, after clearing all the exams and everything. So he possessed that knowledge which he has already demonstrated. So why to go and recheck the competency of the component auditor? Okay, so the option number 1 is incorrect because it requires you to check. Option number C is also incorrect because again it's required to check. Option number D is incorrect. Reason because it says that it's a matter of professional judgment. Okay, and is influenced by parents' management. It's not a professional judgment. Plus, it shouldn't be influenced by the parents' management. Parents' management should not have any role to play in deciding the competency of component auditor. Hence, the correct option will be B. So there are two doubts here. Like one, can a person which is not a member of institute become auditor? Not in India. Not possible in India. He cannot become statutory auditor of a company. I can say that. Even he cannot become, tax auditor. But he can become internal auditor. He can become, statutory auditor for cooperative societies, where there are some government auditors which are not member of institute are allowed. So he can, so a person who is not a member of institute can be the auditor of a cooperative society. At least I know in the state of Maharashtra, because the cooperative society is a state-wise subject. Okay, it differs from state to state. So I'm not sure about the other states. Second query is, what is component auditor means statutory auditor? In this context, yes. When I refer a component auditor, I mean statutory auditor of the component. So component auditor, or see, there are few terms that we will be using interchangeably. Component auditor, other auditor, okay, or you can say auditor of component entity, okay, auditor of subsidiary auditor. All these terms are similar, but what they means the auditor, okay, other than the principal auditor, with the responsibility for reporting on the financial information of the component, which is included in the financial information audited by principal auditor. Now, I'll tell you one thing. So when I refer to other auditors are those who are responsible for reporting the financial information. And reporting the who is responsible for reporting the financial information? Statutory auditor, who is responsible, who has a responsibility for reporting on the financial information. Sorry, reporting for the, okay, reporting for the financial information means I'm expressing an opinion on the financial information. I'm not preparing and presenting the financial statement. Rather, I'm reporting on the financial statements, that whether they are true and fair or not. Okay, so that's the role of other auditor, and that is the role of same statutory auditor also. Okay, why option C is wrong? Because here it says that option C talks about that you need to verify appropriate competency, capability, including sufficient time, okay, of that whether the component auditor have the appropriate competency and capability. But if they are member of institute, then you are not required to verify that, and hence this is not correct. B is more appropriate, where you could see an exception for the members of institute, and we are only required to verify if he is not a member of institute. Clear? Yes, Namrata. Yes, so the correct option is B. Any doubt, guys? Any doubt? Any doubt, guys? Okay, one question. If you are pretty much clear with the concept, can I have two separate auditors? Okay, can I have two separate auditors? One, let's say for example, TTL appointed ABN company as their component auditor, and Shubham and company as their statutory auditor. And let's say for example, for sake of simplicity, ABC and company was suggested by Sudha and Associates. Let's say Sudha and Associates suggested TTL to appoint ABN company as a component auditor, and They agreed, and they also appointed Shubham and Company as their statutory auditor. So, do you think they can do that, appointing two different auditors? Do you think they can appoint two different auditors for this case? Okay, Purvi Ben, good. Viraj, can you provide some example which one you think is difficult so that I can explain you? Can in this current case, can do you think they can appoint two different auditors, as one as a component auditor and second is the statutory auditor? Okay, good, Janvi. Okay, Viraj, I'll explain in a while. Just give me let's discuss it and I'll explain you again in a while. Come on, guys. Do you think they can TTL can appoint two different auditors? Not as a joint auditor. Trust me, not as a joint auditor. I'm not discussing the joint audit case as of now. Okay. Come on, guys. So that is something, the understanding of the component or other auditor will fall where. Come on, guys. Namrata, just now, few minutes ago, I provided the difference, and this question is on that difference only. Good, Hari Kumar. Good, Purvi Ben. I'm not talking about principal auditor. Okay, I'll reframe the example here. Okay. I reframe the example. Now let's say Sudha and associates suggested to TTL to appoint AB and Company as other auditor for the work they will assign. and TTL by themselves appointed Shubham and company under company set as stat auditor. So they appointed AB and company as the other auditor, and they appointed Shubham and company as the stat auditor. Can this be done? Like appointing two different auditors. Now, Sudha and Associate, they are the statutory auditor appointed under company set. Stat auditor under company set for SPL. Okay, good, Namrata. So this is the scenario. Can two different, again, I'll repeat, can two different auditors can be appointed here? Like one as a Shubham and company as a stat auditor, a second ABN company as a other auditor. Can we appoint? Can TTL appoint two different auditors? I hope now the question is clear. Come on. Can they appoint two different, assuming both are member of the institute, they both are the firms which are registered with the institute. I'm not saying one is there, one is not. Let's assume both are registered. Both are CA firms. Is this permissible or prohibited? Good, Purvi Ben. Good, Viraj. Okay. So the answer is yes, they can. I'll tell you how. And we will understand the role of the component auditor and the principal auditor relationship. That is very important. Statutory auditor has a responsibility which are defined under the company set. Okay. He is required to report as per the provisions of company set, and everything is there. So it's well defined. The responsibilities are well defined over here. Now, when I come as a other auditor or component auditor, okay, usually they are same, but they can be different also. Now, when I talk about other auditor or component auditor, that becomes the assignment of group reporting. Usually, group reporting is done by the same auditor who is performing statutory auditor to avoid the work of duplication. But there is no prohibition that you cannot appoint a separate auditor for the group reporting. Now, what is the group reporting? Here, the other auditor will perform the procedures that are necessary for the principal auditor or the parent auditor, okay, to include or to rely upon the the financial information that is included in their financial. So if these financials are prepared by Shubham and company, okay, ABN company can perform additional procedures on that financial and can provide the information to Sudha and Associates so that they can include that financial information appropriately in their consolidated financial statements or whatever they are preparing. Okay, wherever they are merging. So the role basically of the component auditor is that their responsibility for reporting on the financial information of a component which is included in the financial information audited by principal. So their responsibility is for reporting on the financial information which is included in the information audited by principal auditor. So they somewhere assist Sudha and Associates. They perform some procedures based on the guidance provided by the component auditor, principal auditor. Okay. And they can, so principal auditor is required to perform procedures to obtain appropriate audit evidence that the work by the other auditor is adequate for their purpose. And their purpose is reporting on the consolidated financial information. Okay. So there are a lot of procedures which happen. Let's say, for example, the principal auditor can advise the other auditor to use of, like to use some specific things, like to consider the risk, that risk assessment that they have performed, or to advise on the significant accounting auditing policies or something like that. So there are some additional procedures that a principal auditor might require, and the other auditor's role is to provide the appropriate and sufficient audit evidence and to perform those procedures. Clear? So there can be two different persons, but it's not necessary that the statutory auditor shall be the other auditor. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt? AB means AB is a name, so it's nothing. AB and company, anything. I could write ABC, I could write ABCD, but it's nothing like that. Clear? Okay. So there is one doubt with respect to previous question, and that to point number A. If I'm not wrong, Viraj, you're okay. So you wanted to understand point number A over here with respect to the competency. Okay. Now see what point number A says, that when planning to use the work of another auditor or other auditor or component auditor, basically we are talking about, the principal auditor should consider the professional competency of other auditor in the context of specific engagement or assignment. If the other auditor is a member of the institute, but it's the reverse way. If that person is not a member of institute, then only I need to consider the professional competency in context of that engagement. Means in relation to that engagement. So that is the point number one, and which is incorrect. Any doubt? Or it's clear, Viraj? Any doubt? So my next question is on this point only, considering the competency and capability, objectivity of the auditors. Now, let's assume, okay, let's assume that TTL is located and incorporated as per the prevailing laws in Netherlands, and Sugarman Company are not members of ICI, rather they are the qualified auditors. They are qualified to be auditors of TTL as per the local laws of Netherlands. So they are not the members of the institute. TTL is not located in India, it's located in the Netherlands. In such a case, kindly guide Sudha and Associate with respect to the matters that may be considered in determining whether the component auditor have the appropriate competency, capability to perform the assigned audit procedures at the component. Now comes this story. That's why I was discussing whether there can be two different auditors or not. Now let's say Shubham and company are the auditors as per the local laws of Netherlands. They are not the member of institute. Before using the work of other auditor, what you will do now? How will you ensure? Because now they are if there was a condition, if the other auditor is not a member of institute, then I need to consider the professional competency of other auditor. This is that case that they are not the member of institute. How will you consider the appropriate competency and capability? What you will do? What procedures you will perform? Come on, guys. What procedures you will perform? Are you understanding the question number 4? We when correct, Namrata. There are a lot many things. Let's try. Come on, guys. There are a lot many things that are required to be considered. Okay, so I want to answer as much as you can. Correct, Janvi. Good. Come on, guys. What else? What else you will see or check or look for? That might not go with the competency and capability, Namrata. That it's something with respect to the conversion. No, that will not be relevant here. Come on, guys. I'm waiting for your answers. Try. Let's try. What else you will look for? One of the example, audit methodology that they will be using. Okay, I could say, okay, I need to see the audit methodology. In here, we do risk-based auditing. They might perform something else. Could be one of the case, one other example. What else? See, the question here is that whether when we want to rely upon the work performed by other auditors, okay, we need to make sure that we consider their professional competency and capabilities before we rely on the work performed by them, and to consider the competency and capability, what things we are required to do. Again, filing requirements might not be the appropriate. Materiality level, yes, could be one of the case, but I'm talking about the competency. Capability, somewhere materiality and capability I can see. Yeah. Materiality and capability I can see, so that's there. One of the case could be there is one important area that we all are missing, not referring to. Think, what is the critical to any auditor? Okay, what is very much critical, which ensures that we perform the work appropriately? What is that? Correct, Namrata. One area that could be. But think about what is the very critical to the work that we perform here. What is something which requires us and guides us to perform the work in an appropriate way? Could be Janvi. Which is that thing which requires us here to perform the work, the audit work in an appropriate way? What is that thing? We are missing that thing. Absolutely correct, Namrata. From where that particular requirement is coming to, even from where? That is the source I'm talking about. Absolutely correct. Let us see the answers. Correct, Janvi. Correct, Namrata. So, SA 600, using the work of another auditor, when planning to use the work of another auditor, the principal auditor should consider the professional competency of the other auditor in the context of the specific engagement if the other auditor is not a member of institute. Okay. Now, in determining whether the component auditor have the appropriate competency and capability to perform the assigned audit procedures at the component, the engagement partner may consider such matters as previous experience with knowledge of the component auditor's specialized skills, if they have the specialized skill, degree to which principal auditor and component auditor are subject to common system of quality management, and that's very important. What is we were forgetting about the quality management. In here, if there is an auditor outside India, in India, for the chartered accountants, we have SA 220 plus SQC 1 to define the quality plus quality management. If I want to rely upon the work of the or other auditors performed by them, I need to have the same quality. Okay, from the work performed by them. So what is the standards, or you can say requirements / quality management framework that they are using? Whether that makes equivalent to the quality that we are delivering over here. If yes, then good. For example, use of common resources. If there is a common resource to perform the work, common policies and procedures affecting the engagement performance, subject to common monitoring activities, having commonalities during common leadership or common cultural environment. Basically, when I say common here, common means how much it is similar to ours, whether it is sufficient. Let's say, for example, common resource like audit methodology or IT applications that they are using. Common policies with respect to direction, supervision, review of work, consultation, which is there in the SQC 1. Okay. So whether they are also subject to that common or similar, you can say policies, common monitoring activities or similar monitoring activities. Okay. Then you can consider laws and regulations, language. Language is sometimes also a barrier. So you need to understand whether they can deliver the work in the language you require. Education, training, qualifications, professional oversight, discipline, external quality assurance. Okay. Also, we can get the information about the component auditor through interaction with the component management, those charged with governance, and key personnel such as internal auditors. So these are the places from where we can get the information about the competency and capability of the component auditor. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt with respect to this? Namrata, I'm not able to understand your question. Can you reframe it a bit? Like, understand which things? Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Any doubt? Any question on this? No? Clear? Namrata, can you rewrite your question? Like, on the understanding this all things, like, to understand further, like, what is the doubt here? Okay, good. So the question is how to understand these things, like what is the quality management over there, what is the common monitoring activities, policies, procedures, or framework, audit procedure, audit methodology they are following in other country. How will I understand that thing? See, now once you will, once the engagement will start, okay. So SA 600, okay, allows the parent auditor, principal auditor, okay, to inquire certain things like from the component. Okay, so principal auditor would inform the other auditors that okay, how I am going to use your work. Okay, how I am going to rely upon your work before start of the engagement itself. And for that, I may share a questionnaire, checklist, or some other document to the component auditor, and I may ask him to fill out that for me. I also can visit the other auditor. I can visit the component management also, component also. Over there, I can discuss. And by these inquiries, checklist, questionnaires, I can get the information I require. Clear? Any doubts? Okay. If no doubts, then I have one question. What if I decide I cannot rely upon the work of component auditor? Or let's say, for example, because of XYZ reason, I cannot consider the work that is being performed by the component auditor in Netherlands, because there are a lot of difference between the work that they are performing and the work I require. What I'll do? What I will do if I consider, okay, now I cannot rely upon the work performed by internal auditor. Oh, sorry, not internal auditor, but a component auditor. My mistake. Assuming they are in the Netherlands, and I consider, okay, now I don't think that I can rely upon the work that is being performed because of lot many differences. The way they are performing the work. And I'll give you one good example. Let's say instead of audit, they are performing limited review. Over there, they are not performing full-fledged audit, but they are performing limited review. Then what will happen? Let's assume, example, assume Shubham and company is performing limited review, not audit, in Netherlands. What I will do? Correct, Jay. Correct, Janvi. Namrata, with respect to the expenditure, it's altogether different topic. Come on, guys. Let's say assume we are not able to rely upon the work performed by the component auditor because they have not performed the audit, but they have just performed the limited review. Good, Janvi. Good, Jay. Okay, Purvi Ben. Good, Namrata. See, reporting is there, But before reporting, you have this option that I was discussing, appointing separate auditor. Now that's why the purpose was this to, suggest like, okay, you can perform yourself as an additional procedure, or you can request management to appoint some other auditor. And that's why I said there could be two different auditors, one for uh, the work that you want, and one as a statutory auditor as per the local requirements. So there could be two auditors, and if you are not able to perform the work, then in that case, that could be the scenario. Now, in the same line, let us see the next question. What I suggest is let's see the next question. Okay, what I suggest is before we proceed to the next question, which is very important, I suggest let's take a quick 10-minute break. Okay, and then we can go to the next question and discuss the next question. Okay, let's take a quick 10-minute break and then gather back and we'll go to the next question, which is on the similar lines, what we have discussed just now. Welcome back. Okay, so let's continue the next question. Now, on the similar lines, what we discussed before the break, with respect to the reporting when you are not able to get sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. That is the one that will be discussing now. Assuming, in continuation to the above questions, assuming the TPL Netherlands Incorporated Company or old individual shareholders restrict Shubhan and Company, auditor appointed as per local laws, from sharing any information or from performing any procedure suggested by Sudan Associates, such that Sudan Associates should not be able to gather any financial information of TPL. Sudan Associate has approached you to understand how to deal with such limitation on audit scope, when the limitation will have a material and pervasive effect on the expression of opinion of the financial statement of SPL. Kindly guide Sudan Associates. So, if this particular thing, like not providing the information, if not sharing the information or performing any procedures suggested by Sudan Company, okay, is having limitation on scope of audit, okay, and it will have material and pervasive effect on the expression of opinion, then how the Sudan Company should deal with, assuming they are not able to perform any other procedures, or assuming they are not able to appoint any other auditor. How they need to deal this thing? Come on, guys. So let's say they are not able to gather information, they are not able to perform any procedures, there is a limitation on the scope of audit, and the impact is material and pervasive effect of this particular thing on the whole financial statement. Then how do you think that should be dealt with? How they should deal with this? Come on, guys. Okay, good, Janvi. Good. Come on, guys. I'm awaiting for your answers. What Sudan Company or Sudan Associates can do? How to deal with this situation? Very important, guys, very important. This is not only related to this particular topic, but it will cover other topic also. Come on, guys. What should be the impact? How they should deal with this? Very important to understand reason, because that is not only related to this particular topic, but it is related to other topic also. Come on, guys. Okay, good, Namrata. I have only received 2 answers. Good, Purvi Ben. But Purvi Ben, you need to consider the information which is there in the question itself about the impact. Come on, guys. Assuming the impact which is given in the question. Correct. Correct, Namrata. See, in this case, what will happen is very important to understand is that, okay, like what is the impact if I do not get the information as required? If I don't get the information as required, in that case, what should be the impact on my opinion? That's very important to understand. Okay, so if we need to understand the impact in the question itself. If you see the last line, it is given that the impact is material and pervasive. If that is the case, then if that is material and pervasive, then in that case we need to understand, okay, like how to report that particular impact. Now, to report that particular impact which is having a material and pervasive effect, we need to refer to SA 705. So let us see the answer then. Now, what SA 600 says that when the principal auditor concludes based on his procedures that the work of other auditor cannot be used, and the principal auditor has not been able to perform sufficient and additional procedures regarding the financial information of component audited by other auditor, the principal auditor should express a qualified opinion or a disclaimer of opinion because there is a limitation on the scope of audit. Now, if you see as per 705 modification to opinion in the independent auditor's report, if the auditor is unable to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, the auditor shall determine the implications if the auditor concludes that the possible effects on the financial statement of the undetected misstatement, if any, could be both material and pervasive, so that a qualification of the opinion would be inadequate to communicate the gravity of the situation. The auditor shall either withdraw from the audit where practicable possible, or he shall, if withdrawal is not possible, then before before issuing the audit report, if withdrawal is not possible, then disclaim an opinion on the financial statement. Not the qualify, but disclaim. And why not qualify? Because the implication, okay, and the possible effects on the financial statement of undetected misstatement could be material and pervasive. And in that case, qualification of the opinion would be inadequate to communicate the gravity of the situation. Hence, qualification is not appropriate in the case. Along with, if I disclaim the opinion, I need to, as an auditor and as per SA 705, I need to state that the auditor does not express an opinion on the accompanying financial statement, state that because of the significance of the matter described in the basis of disclaimer of opinion section, the auditor has not been able to obtain sufficient and appropriate audit evidence to provide a basis for audit opinion on the financial statement. Amend the statement required by 24B of SS 200 indicates that the financial statement has been audited to state that the auditor was engaged to audit the financial statement. So these are the changes that you are required to do, and accordingly, you need to either issue a disclaimer of opinion when withdrawal is not possible. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt? Okay. If no doubt, then I have one doubt. I'll ask. Think of a reverse situation when I am getting all the information and explanation that is necessary. Okay. Think of the reverse situation. So in that reverse situation, okay, what I need to do. So for example, okay, for example, all informations and evidence necessary was received. No observations were identified by component auditor. In that case, how Sudha and Associates should report the matter in their audit report. If everything is good, they have received all the necessary information, explanation, and evidence, sufficient and appropriate audit evidence, whatever it was required, then how Sudha and Associate should report the matter, should report in, should disclose this in their audit report. Come on, guys. How, in that case, Sudha and associate should report or disclose the matter in audit report? If everything is fine, I'm satisfied with the opinion, I'm satisfied with the information, and everything is good. Just now we saw one question where we were not getting the details. We agreed, okay, issue disclaimer of opinion. What if it's reverse? If we are getting everything? How will you disclose this in the audit report? Come on, guys. Very important. Trust me, very important. Very important, guys. How will you report this matter? Absolutely correct, Purvi Ben. Absolutely correct, Janvi. Good. Correct, Purvi Ben. Good. Yes, absolutely correct. Come on, guys. I'm still waiting for your answers. Correct, Namrata. And okay, Janvi, Purvi Ben, where you will, disclose that. That's the more important thing. Even Namrata, where you will disclose that. In audit report, where you will disclose that. Okay. Absolutely correct, Purvi Ben. Good, Namrata. Come on, guys. Pretty easy. Okay, let me show you. This is one of the audit report. Okay. Now, if you see in the other matters paragraph, again, important, other matters paragraph. Okay, over there, if you see, we did not audit the financial statement of one of the subsidiary whose financial statement reflect total assets before consolidation adjustment of 3 this much crores, total revenue of this much crores, and net cash flow outflow of amounting to this much crore for a year ended on that date, as considered in the consolidated financial statement. These financial statements have been prepared by auditors, these financial statements have been audited by other auditors whose report has been furnished to us by management, and our opinion on the consolidated financial statement insofar as it relates to the amount and disclosure included in respect of this subsidiary as per our report in terms of section 3 of 143 of the Act, insofar as it relates to the aforesaid subsidiary, is based solely on the report of other auditors. So this says that it's based solely on report of other auditors. After identifying the total asset, total revenue, net cash flow, they specified that the report was furnished by the management. Okay, these are audited by other auditors whose report has been furnished to us by the management, and our opinion on the consolidated financial statement relating to the numbers of this subsidiary is solely based on the report of other auditors. So this reporting is required to be done in your audit report. This is as per SA 600 plus SA 706. We are required to report in other matter paragraph when we are using the work of another auditor. Clear? Any doubt? And this is necessary. So this reporting is necessary as per SA 706 and 600. You are required to state this fact. Okay. And this is part of my consolidated independent auditor report on consolidated financial statement. Because in independent standalone financial statement, there will be no numbers for the subsidiaries. So this is for the audit report of the consolidated financial statement, not the individual or standalone financial statement. Where you are required to there you are required to report this matter. Okay. Yes, EOM and other paragraph are different. There is a whole essay on that particular topic, SA 706. So when we will, from next lecture, we will be starting SA 706, and in that case, I will be explaining, the requirements of SA 700 series or you can say each essay in the 7-day series in detail, because those are very important essays. Okay, let's go back to the questions. Okay, now a bit of change to the question. Okay, let's assume SPL, that is the Super Products Limited. Okay, appointed borderline advisories BLA as their internal auditors. So they appointed external consulting firm as their internal auditors. BLA's internal audit team comprised individuals who held diplomas in internal audit from New World University. However, none of them were chartered accountants or member of the institute. During FY 22-23, BLA, that is the borderline advisories, who are the internal auditors, chose the following area for testing of the internal control design and operating effectiveness. So they chose this particular thing. Process, what was the control description? Okay. And the risk assessment, design and operating effectiveness. So this is risk assessment. DE stands for design effectiveness. And OE stands for operating effectiveness. Okay. Now they performed the testing and they concluded this is design, whether effective in design or not, whether operating effectively or not, for these 4 areas: vendor account reconciliation, revenue recognition from long-term contracts, manual journal entries, and manual journal reconciliation. Okay. Now, let's see the question. Assuming SPL also hired BLA to assist management in calculating the impact of following areas on the financial statement of 22-23. So they also hired BLA, like borderline advisories, same team, okay, to calculate the impact of this following areas: first time adoption of NDS 116, identification and initial recognition of transaction falling within the scope of NDS 109, calculation of fair value of liabilities as per NDS 113. Now, instead of providing fees to BLA, SPL issued equity shares at a lower price than the market value with a lock-in period of 1 year. Kindly guide Sudha and Associates when they intend to rely on the work performed by internal auditors for the purpose of audit. Also provide factors which can affect the internal auditor objectivity. So first thing first, if Sudha and Associates want to rely on the work performed by internal auditor, okay, what they need to do? Now, internal auditor has performed this particular work, plus they were entrusted with the work of these areas in calculation of these impacts. What they should do in this case? Okay, they have a calculation of these areas plus the work performed over there. Now, Sudha and Associate wants to rely on the work performed by internal auditor. Whether they can do that? If yes, then what should they do? Come on, guys. So that is the thing here. This is the work performed by internal auditors. They performed 4 areas. They tested. They also performed additional this area. Instead of providing fees, SPL issued equity shares. Now they want to rely upon the work of internal auditor, whether they can do that or not. Very important question, guys. Very important. Okay, Janvi. Come on, guys. If they want to rely upon the work performed by internal auditor, what things they should consider, whether it can be done or not, whether the work performed by internal auditor can be relied or not. Okay, good, Purvi Ben. Come on, guys. Whether I can rely upon the work performed by internal auditor or not. Internal auditor has performed this work. They have tested these 4 areas. I want to rely on them. Can I do it in this case? If yes, then why and how? Basically, if yes, then how? If no, then why not? Come on, guys. I'm waiting for your answers. Absolutely correct, Namrata. Absolutely correct. There are 3 things I need to evaluate before I can rely upon the work of internal audit. Which are those 3 things? Which are those 3 things? Now, if you have seen my previous videos or lectures, or if you have read the study material, you will be able to answer this. Which are those 3 things that I need to consider before I can rely upon the work of internal audit? Be it any internal audit function. Be it any internal audit function. I need to look into 3 things. If I'm able to get the details for those 3 things, then only I can decide whether I can rely upon the work of internal audit or not. Which are those 3? Okay, Namrata. Good, Sanuja. That is one. Correct. Correct, Sanuja. Come on, guys. Which are those three things? Very important, because if you want to rely upon the work performed by internal auditor, you need to refer to those three things. That is must. That is necessary. Good, Namrata. Good, Purvi Ben. This is one of the thing. Okay. So, if I want to rely upon the work performed by internal auditor, okay. If I want to rely upon the work performed by internal auditor, for that purpose, I directly cannot rely. Okay. I cannot just rely upon, okay, they have performed the work, that is fine. No. Before even I plan to rely upon the work of internal auditor, before even, okay, I plan to rely upon the work of internal auditor, I need to make sure few things. Okay. I need to make sure that number one, whether the organizational status, okay, the organizational status of the internal auditor, okay, supports their objectivity, whether the organizational status of the internal auditor supports their objectivity. And when I talk about objectivity, is basically, whether they are able to work in an objective manner, free from bias, free from conflict. Number two, the level of competency of the internal audit function, how much competent they are. Number three, whether the internal audit function applies a systematic and disciplined approach, including the quality control. So, if I want to rely upon the work performed by internal auditor, I need to see three things. One, as I told you, it will be objectivity. Second, it will be competency. Third, it will be systematic. And disciplined approach. If I can get surety of these three things, then only I'll go and plan to rely upon the work performed by internal auditor. Now, in the current case, there are two things. Number one, BLA is also assisting the management in calculating these impacts. Plus, BLA is also receiving equity shares at a lower price than the market value, okay, as a fees. Instead of providing fees, they are receiving the equity shares. So two things. They are assisting management in calculating the impact and they are receiving the fees. Now, the external auditor shall not use the work of internal audit function if there is a doubt about the objectivity. And when can I say there is a doubt about the objectivity? There are factors which can help me determine what is objectivity, whether I can establish or not. Okay, so these are the factors that may be these are the factors that may affect the external auditor's evaluation, okay, with respect to the objectivity. And when I say objectivity, objectivity refers to ability to perform those tasks without allowing bias, conflict of interest, undue influence of others to override the professional judgment. Now, here there is a conflict of interest present because they are assisting the management and they are themselves are then internal auditing or those work, then there could be issue. There is a again conflict of interest with respect to fees because they are getting the shares. So there are certain factors already present. Let's see the examples. Whether the organizational status of the internal audit function, including the function's authority, accountability, supports the ability of the function to be free from bias, conflict of interest, undue influence. Okay, for example, whether the internal audit function reports to those charged with governance or an officer with appropriate authority, or the function reports to management, whether it has direct access to those charged with governance or not. So if in the organization, if the hierarchy of the internal audit function in such a way that they are not able to report to those charged with governance, or they are not able to directly access those charged with governance, they have to go through every time through management, then that's an issue because of the organizational structure, they cannot provide the output or whatever the work they have performed to those charged with governance. Second, whether the internal audit function is free from any conflicting responsibilities. For example, having managerial or operational duties or responsibilities that are outside the internal audit function. In current case, we saw they have a responsibility of calculating the impact, assisting the management. So they are having conflicting responsibilities, very important. Hence, it could impact negatively to the objectivity of the internal audit function. Then, whether those charged with governance oversee employment decisions relating to the internal audit function, for example, determining the appropriate remuneration policy. So in current case, here SPL is issuing equity shares. Then who is looking after the hiring process? Whether to hire BLA, borderline advisories, or whether to hire anyone else? How much amount to pay? Who is taking all those decisions? Whether the management is taking those decisions or those charged with governance? Whether there are any constraints or restrictions placed on the internal audit function by management or those charged with governance. For example, in communicating the internal audit functions finding to the external auditor, like there is a restriction that you cannot report your findings to external auditor, or you cannot report your finding until management has cleared the reporting or management has cleared the observations that you have identified. In that case, your reporting is dependent upon the clear or approval provided by the management, and that is somewhere impacting the objectivity. Whether the internal auditors are member of relevant professional bodies and their membership obligate their compliance with relevant professional standards relating to objectivity, whether their internal policies achieve the same objectives. In the current case also, the internal auditors or borderline advisories are holding diploma in internal audit from New World University. They are not chartered accountants or member of institute. None of them were chartered accountants or member of NCA. So again, that also creates a doubt about the objectivity. Hence, in the current case, it is not possible or it is not appropriate to rely upon the work that will be performed or is performed by the internal audit function. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt? Okay. Any doubt? No? If no doubt, then we saw how to, talk about how to refer to objectivity that is there. How will you ensure whether the internal audit function is having competency? Let's talk about the competency. How will you ensure the competency? Okay, so there is a doubt. What do we mean by organizational status? Organizational status means in organization, where do you stand? Do you have a direct access to those charged with governance? Are you able to issue report without any hindrance? Are you able to perform, work without any hindrance? Who is deciding your scope? Who is hiring you? To whom you are reporting? Whether you have access to external auditors? So all these cases are clubbed together to the organizational status. In this case, particularly if there was, let's say for example, if I remove the equity share matter, still I cannot rely because there is a conflicting duties which is being assigned to internal auditor that assisting management in calculating the impact of these three areas: first time adoption, identification, and calculation of fair value. At least I cannot rely on internal auditor on the work performed or related to any of these three areas in that case. I hope it is clear, Purviben. Okay, so how will you ensure competency? Pretty simple, just now we discussed. How will you ensure competency? Whether the internal audit function has appropriate competency. Quickly. How will you ensure the competency? Okay, good, Sanuja. What other areas you will look to ensure the competency of the internal audit function? Some examples. Come on, guys. What do you think could be the examples or areas that you can refer to when you want to evaluate the competency of the internal audit function? Very important. Okay, Purvi Ben, this is one of the example. Good. But this is not the only thing I need to check. There are multiple things I need to see. Correct, Janvi? If I talk about threat, Namrata, that will be somewhere, with respect to the objectivity, rather. If I talk about, self-review threat or familiarity threat, that goes to the objectivity. Come on, guys. On what basis I can say that the internal audit function has appropriate competency? Now we discuss or required objectivity, required competency, and required systematic and disciplined approach. But how to evaluate that? That is the important part. Because till the time we do not understand how to evaluate, we will not get the appropriate understanding of the concept of the competency. Correct, Namrita? Okay. If I want to, okay, if I want to evaluate the competency of the internal audit function, okay, then competency means the attainment and maintenance of the knowledge and skill of the function. First of all, attainment and the maintenance of the knowledge and skill of the function as a whole, okay, at the level that is required, where they can, deliver the task that is required to be performed. Now, when I talk about competency, I need to see not only the skills and knowledge, I need to see the resource also. So, for example, when I talk about competency, I will look for resourcing, that whether the internal audit function is adequately and appropriately resourced relative to the size of the entity and the nature and its operation. For example, what if a BLA borderline advisories the internal audit team consists of three members, and the work and the size of SPLA is something that requires members team size of 20 plus 25. In that case, can I say that internal audit function is competent enough? Answer is no. So I need to consider the resources relative to the size of the entity. Number two, I need to consider policies for hiring, training, and assigning internal auditors. So hiring, training of the internal audit team members. Of IA team members. For example, can I say that, okay, no, this is SPL, very big company. Let's do one thing. I have three new people, new person who have recently joined to my advisory firm. Let's send them and start the internal audit. No, I cannot. I need some mix of experience and new team members, majorly experienced one, who should have the understanding of the internal audit plus the business. Second, as I said, competency is about attaining and maintaining the knowledge. That's why I have a hiring plus training of the resource. Third, whether internal auditors have adequate training, which is in the technical area or proficiency in auditing, basically. Today they are performing audit, so they should have a technical training and proficiency in audit. Okay, so how much technical and proficient they are in audit? So you can say adequate training, technical training, plus proficiency or expertise in auditing. That is bare minimum that is required. Plus whether they know about the entity's financial reporting framework. Okay. Awareness or knowledge of financial reporting framework which is applicable to entity. Applicable financial reporting framework of to entity. Let's say, for example, if it is a power sector entity, it's a banking company, then the knowledge of applicable financial reporting framework is necessary to perform the internal audit functions or to discharge the internal audit functions. Plus professional bodies. Are they linked to any professional bodies, or is there any guidelines or professional standards available to them which governs the work they perform? If I can get the comfort on these areas, then I can say, okay, I have validated the competency. Proficiency means expertise or specialization. How much proficient or efficient you can say in discharging or in performing the audit. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt, guys? Okay. Now, my next question is on these both areas only. So, my next question is a high level of competence of the internal audit function can compensate for an organizational status and policy and procedure that do not adequately support the objectivity of internal auditors for the external auditor who intend to rely upon the work performed by the internal auditor. Means you need to tell me whether this is correct or what is the scenario. You need to comment on this. So a high level of competency can compensate for missing objectivity. Can I compensate the high level of competency for the missing objectivity? If yes, then how? If no, then why? Why no? If yes, then you need to tell me how. Good, Namrata. Can I compensate high level of competency with the objectivity, missing objectivity? If yes, then how you need to tell me. Okay, good, Purvi Ben. You need to tell me how. If yes. Okay, Namrata. Good. So I have received only two answers as of now. One from Namrata and one from Purvi Ben. In order to prepare, let's say, for example, if you want to answer in the session, there are two things. One, see the previous recorded lectures, read the study material. Number two, if you have doubts, come up with the doubts. Let's clear it over here and try to give the answer. Don't think about whether it's right or wrong. Try to, apply the thought process. Okay. And then you can, based on that thought process, try to give an answer so that at least if you participate, you will learn a few things. You will learn where, if your answers are wrong, where is your thought process is going wrong. Okay. If you think these questions are difficult, don't get disheartened by that. Trust me, don't get demotivated. If you think the questions are difficult, then these are difficult just for the purpose that it can improve your thought process. Okay, when you are appearing in the exam, a practical question will come. At that point in time also, you need to apply that particular concept by using that thought process. And the same we are trying to do it over here. The more you will think, the more you will practice, the more you will be able to, apply the concepts of these standards onto the practical scenario. Okay. So just try to participate, try to give answers. That will be good. Okay, Tushar, good. So most of you have already given the answer. Competency or objectivity cannot be replaced with each other. Okay, let's see the answer. As per SA 610, the external auditor shall determine whether the work of internal audit function can be used for the purpose of the audit by evaluating the extent to which internal audit function, organizational status, and relevant policies subject the objectivity of the internal auditor. Okay. Objectivity and competency may be reviewed as a continuum in continuous presence. The more the internal audit function status and relevant policies and procedures adequately support the objectivity of the internal audit, and the higher the competence of the function, the more likely the external auditor may use the work in more areas. However, an organizational status, relevant policies, procedures provide strong support for the objectivity of internal auditor cannot compensate for the lack of sufficient competency of the internal audit function. Equally, a higher level of competence of the internal audit function cannot compensate for the organizational status, policies, and procedures that do not adequately support the objectivity of the internal auditors. And the reason is because both of the things, objectivity and competency, are required to be viewed in the continuum, means on a continuous basis. It should not be like that, okay, now I have objectivity. After 1 month down the line, I have now competency, but I don't have objectivity. No, they both should be parallelly present. Okay, so I cannot compensate the objectivity with the competency or competency with the objectivity. Thank you, Namrata. Any doubt? Any doubt with respect to this? Okay. If no doubts, then let me go to the next question. Very good question, I'll say. Sudha and associate decided to use work or testing performed by internal auditors over the design and operating effectiveness of the manual journal entries. As per the information gathered, BLA, that's the borderline advisories, the internal auditor, tested 50 samples of manual journal entries and found no deviation in any AP. Okay, and if you see over here in the above question, for the manual journal entries, there was a control that the internal audit team has tested that all manual journal entries above a predefined threshold are reviewed and approved by 2 independent reviewers in the MJ approval tool with the documentation. Once approved, the MJE or manual journal entry is posted in ERP without any manual intervention, and that is they are saying that yes, it is appropriately designed and operating effectively. This operating effectiveness, what as per the additional information, is based on 50 samples tested by BLA, and no observation was noted. No observation were noted. There is another control on the manual journal entry area, which you can say is a supporting control, which is at the month end, finance team pulls out a list of manual journal entries posted in the system in that month and reconciled with the number of manual journal entries approved in the tool. Again, that was also passed. Okay, so now, Sudha and associate, what they are saying is that like they are relying upon the work performed of the internal auditor, assuming the internal auditor has competency, objectivity, and discipline and systematic approach. So assume that all three things are present. Okay. Assuming objectivity, competency, and systematic and disciplined approach are present. Okay. So they want to rely upon the work performed by the internal auditor, and Sudha and associates decided not to perform further testing on manual journal entries as internal auditors have already performed sufficient testing on them. Kindly come. So you need to comment on this. Assuming I can rely upon the work performed by internal auditor has tested the journal entries, 50 samples, they have seen the controls. There are two controls, one main control, key control, and there is a supporting control. Okay, I assume the internal auditor has objectivity, competency, and systematic and disciplined approach. So then the associates now want to rely upon the work performed by internal auditor. Can they do that? Can they do that? So 50 samples are already being tested and no deviation was identified in any attributes. Plus, there are two controls that have been tested and they are saying design and operating effectively, both is correct. Assuming I have objectivity, competency, systematic and discipline approach for internal auditors, I assume that is present. Can I rely upon the work performed by the internal auditor for manual journal entries? Come on, guys. Can I rely upon the work performed by internal auditor or not? Okay, good, Janvi. Good, Purvi Ben. Okay, Tushar. Come on, guys. Come on. I'm still waiting for your answers. Can I rely upon the work which has been performed by the internal auditors? And I have already 50 samples which have been tested by the internal auditors. And as a Sudha and Associates are saying that they already have sufficient testing on their hand. That is 50 samples. Usually it is 40 or 25 samples for the control testing when you have a zero expected rate of deviation. Okay, tolerable rate of deviation. Generally, when you think about the sample size in the test of controls, and when I do not expect any deviation, that's a zero. Tolerable rate is zero. The sample size can go to 25 for the medium and 40 for the higher side. And they are already considering that they are already tested on the higher side. So I don't think the sample size is a problem over here. Good. Sanuja. Okay, Sanuja, Janvi, Purvi Ben, on the basis of which essay or which provision you are saying that you are basing your answer. Tushar, assume sample size is sufficient. Come on, guys. If you receive this question in exam, you need to refer some essay. What you will refer here? Okay, Purvi Ben. Okay, Janvi. I'll tell you. See, there are two things. Number one, there are certain areas where you cannot rely the work performed by the internal auditor. Reason because those areas are of such nature that you require it requires your own testing, and those areas are one where there is more judgment involved, either in planning and performing the audit procedure or evaluating the audit evidence. Number two, areas where the assessed risk of material misstatement at the assertion level is significant, or areas where the special consideration is given to risk identified as a significant risk. If there is an area which is of significant risk, if there is an area where is a more judgment involved, which requires judgment in planning, performing the relevant audit procedures, or judgment in evaluating the audit evidence gathered, you cannot rely only upon the work performed by the internal auditors. You need to perform functions, you need to perform testing your own. Okay, you need to consider, the balance between the work performed by the internal auditor, reliance on that, and more onto the work that you need to perform, you need to test directly. Okay, let's see the answer. Now, why I will say manual journal entry is a significant risk? Why I am saying manual journal entry as a significant risk? Anyone? Why I am saying manual journal entry is a significant risk? I know two areas, judgment involved, or it's a significant risk area. Manual journal entry, I say no judgmental thing is there. but it's a significant risk. Why? So I'm saying that okay, it's a significant risk area. Okay, so as per SA 610, okay, auditor shall plan use less work of the function and perform more work directly if the more judgment is involved or higher the risk of material misstatement. Why I am saying higher the risk of material misstatement in the manual journal entry? Purvi Ben, not complete answer. I could similar lines, but not the appropriate answer I'm looking for. Same Namrata, not the appropriate answer I'm looking for. Come on, guys. Why I'm saying significant risk, high risk of material misstatement? No, Sanuja. Come on, quickly, guys. Why I am saying the manual journal entries possesses higher risk of material misstatement? Yes, Janvi, but there is something specific to this, something specific called to this. There is something specific term for this particular thing that you are referring here. It is, sorry, no, not appropriate answer. So the reason why I am saying manual journal entry is the significant risk area because of the management override of controls. Management is in position to override the controls, and by default there are two areas that I classify as a significant risk as per SA 240. One is risk of fraud in revenue recognition, and second is management override of controls. Remember, SA 240 talks about areas which are of significant risk. An auditor needs to consider. That is, one is the risk of fraud in revenue recognition, and second is management override of control. And SA 240 requires that irrespective of the auditor's risk assessment, okay, of management override of control, the auditor shall design and perform audit procedures to test the appropriateness of the journal entries recorded in the general ledger and other adjustment made in the preparation of financial statement. Irrespective of what I do, I need to test because SA 240 requires us, because it's a significant area where there's a risk of management override of controls. Hence, I cannot rely upon the work performed by the internal auditor where the area is of significant risk. Clear? So if you write collusion by the management, chances of high error, human intervention, easy manipulating, that is not an appropriate term or answer that is being looked for. You need to be specific in your answers, like, okay, there is a risk of management override of control. As per I said, clear? So you need to be specific in your answers rather than, just being generic. Any doubts? Any doubt? Okay. If no further doubts, then what I suggest, please go after this lecture, revise whatever we have discussed. If you are not seeing the previous lectures, if you are not able to, go through the previous lecture. Please go through the previous lecture, revisit this, revise, practice as much as you can, read the study material that will clear your concepts. And if you have still any doubt, you can come back in the next lecture, and we can discuss that. In next lecture, I will be starting SA 700 series. For SA 700 series, I will be covering in depth and detail because that's a very important topic on the audit report. Okay, so I will be explaining the essay also, and unlike this thing, like till now we were only discussing the questions, but for SA 700 series, I will be discussing the requirements of the essay in detail and then some questions. So it will be in more detailed way, like it was performed for this compared to these things. Okay. If you can watch, that would be good. But again, I will be covering majority of the things in SA 700 series. So if you want, you can see the past lectures, but I will be covering again the theory portion also of SA 700 series. Also, guys, please provide your feedback to us, whether you are liking the lectures, whether you want any change, whether you want anything additional in this. That's very, very helpful and important for us, so that we can understand whether whatever we are intending here, that you should get the benefit of, whether you are getting the benefit or not. Please provide your feedback. It is very important. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you for participating in the lecture. Have a nice day, ads. I'll see you in the next lecture with SS700 series. Thank you.